Meeting to order at, it's now 6:30. Let's see, Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. So we'll cover just a few question. Please fill out a piece of paper on the Excel spreadsheet. If you've got your cell phone on, turn it off, please. I didn't see. Roll call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Full house, plus the district attorney. Minus, got the full.
Janet's about to go to work, 2 full-time jobs this time. I have a teacher going out on family leave. I'm going to be doing her job plus my job. It's going to be getting cray-cray. Yeah, you just read the report, right?
Okay. I tell you what I would do too. We may not do this, but since it's taken so long and since we've got a year end coming up, end of September, I would go ahead and advertise for a auditor. Because I would advertise for an auditor. Let me just leave it at that, because I don't want to make, boy, I could get wound up on those comments, and I don't want to do that.
Well, I already have prepared the ad and the request for proposal scope. That's already been drafted up because we had assumed that Ms. Majors wasn't going to continue. I think, did I email that out to everybody?
You did. I remember. Yeah. I remember you. You might not have emailed it to everybody. I remember you emailed it to me, and we said she hadn't quit. She hadn't presented her final audit and that sort of thing.
Right.
So we would wait until that was done.
So I have not emailed that out to everybody, but I can do that tomorrow.
As far as I'm concerned, verbally, she told me she was not going to renew her agreement with us, so she quit. Okay. And if she didn't, I don't want to renew with her either. But that's my own opinion, and if y'all want to vote on that, go right ahead. I guarantee you somebody else can do this stuff next year. It ain't going to be me.
I think we are members of this state association of districts. I mean, I can reach out to them. They must have an auditor. They must know the auditors because all the districts have to be audited.
They may not if it's dependent or independent, though. That's what Janet was bringing up earlier.
Yeah, it's a phone call.
Yeah. Well, by the time we get to the point where we're not going to have Mary Ann Majors back. She quit. Okay. So by the time we get any feedback, Hans will have already researched the independent, dependent, and all that stuff. So we'll go on from there.
So for clarity, Hans is also going to look for or post position for district auditor?
District auditor.
Is that what you said? Okay.
I'm trying to help.
And who's going to do the ad for the district secretary?
Well,
Hans?
yeah, I already have one of those drafted up too. So I can submit that.
Okay, and I'm going to look in my file and see if I have anything when we hired Shirley that resembles a job description.
Well, that is what I have.
Oh, is that what you
Yeah,
have? Okay.
I have that, and it's either the exact same or maybe I just tweak the language a little bit, but it's pretty much the same exact thing.
Yeah,
So
good, thank you.
I have the scope and the ad that was done whenever that was, I guess, 2021.
Are we limiting ourselves to a Clay County type person, or should we advertise in the Times Union and go to Duval? Or is that,
For that salary, I can't see someone traveling from Duval, especially with our late night meetings.
Especially at night, I
just throwing out?
don't think so.
All right.
Well, I think just to be formal about it, and I guess you correct me if I'm wrong, Diane, but I do think there should be a motion and a second to have me submit the secretary ad to the Clay Today, and then also the ad for requests for proposals for the auditor. There's one out there for Tom's role, but not for Major's role.
Okay, so I make a motion that we have Mr. Wall put together the application or request for proposal for the auditor position, as well as a district secretary position, and to publish those as he sees fit, but especially for the secretary in the Clay Today.
I'll second.
Motion second. Any more discussion?
I have one question. This isn't a position that we fill, but it's a position that I fill. I have been managing the insurance for the association as well as this operation for a couple of years. I'm willing to do it. I have the applications for the upcoming year, but I told them that I would review that with the board tonight, and if they want to make a change, they can certainly do so, or I will continue. And these are the applications. Well, that's fine, I will, but I'm just saying, I'll throw it open to somebody else if they want to do that.
Does anybody volunteer? Stick your hand up. Having seen none, Carol, we really appreciate you doing that.
All right, all right.
You do a fine job and continue doing that.
I'll bring them back next month and done.
Continue on.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right. South Lake Spillway update. I probably know more about that than anybody. However, that doesn't mean that other people don't know about it. Thompson Contracting Group, they've done this kind of work before. They started they were supposed to have been here on the 19th. I think that was a Monday. I think they actually started on the 21st. And they started systematically tearing the damaged parts of the spillway apart and found a few things that were not readily apparent, let's say it that way. There'll be a report once this thing is done. But where they're at now, if you say, okay, where are we, when are we going to finish up, so to speak, and that sort of thing, then if you remember, can you put the one from last month that had the cross section? I don't even remember which one it was, but no. We don't need to waste time on it. What it amounted to was you had compacted dirt, sand. Yeah, okay. You had compacted dirt and sand, native soil compacted, whatever that Proctor number is. Above that was a geotextile. That's just like you'd put French drain material in. It's just cloth. And then you had above that 2-inch crushed stone, and then you had a geogrid shows that. There's right below, right at the top of the stone, between the stone and the articulating block, and then the articulating block. That, we had thought that that was washed out by as much as 20 to 24 inches. There were some places that it had washed out by probably more like 3.5, 4 foot. What we wound up doing in that case was putting a French drain pipe in there and run it all the way to the lake. And you can see that that thing is running steady water and it's running cold water. So it's spring related, probably. Don't take these as engineering comments because I'm not the engineer on this thing. So that's one of the things that was not expected. We had Hanson Engineering that we talked to originally when this thing showed up. We said, okay, Hanson has done research on these dams and that sort of thing. So we hired them to be, let's call it an advisor. They're not going to assume responsibility because they're not the engineer of record on designing this stuff. So Hanson is advising the board as to what they see and what to do. And so they've had Justin Dewey has been here a couple of times, and Jim starts with a K, I can't pronounce his name, but he's a geotechnical engineer. He has been here 2 or if not 3 times, I think 3 times now. And so where they're at now is they've got all the stuff torn out. They've got dirt put back in and compacted, and they've got probably 90% of the rock put back in and leveled up to where it needs to be, and they're ready to start reinstalling the articulating block. It rained today, so they got kind of screwed up on that, but barring rain delays, they think that by the end of this week, they could have most of that articulating block reinstalled. The damage that was done on the South Lake side of the spillway has been repaired, so that's completed. The articulating block still has to be installed, a little bit more rock than the articulating block. Then they have to do some work at the bulkhead. Those are plastic or hard PVC stuff that those are made out of. There's some joints there that need to be grouted in. They're not connected really. So they've got to do that. They're going to put some weep posts through those or through that sheet piling that's there.
Vinyl bulkhead material.
Yeah, the vinyl bulkhead material. They're going to put some weep holes in that. Then they're going to put the cap back on and concrete all that back in it. So I would think that within 2 weeks they probably will be pretty much finished up. In the meantime, I'm not guaranteeing you that we're going to keep it this way, but the lake, with the valves closed, the lake gains half an inch a day with no rain. So it'll gain half an inch a day with no rain. That's strictly from spring water coming in. And so we closed the valve, I'm going to say a week ago, something like that. And right now it's, Mike, do you have the numbers? 43.6. So that's less than a foot down. It went a little more than that, but it's a little less than a foot below normal level. 8/10 below normal level. Yeah. So the lake is coming up. We'll watch the progress of the articulating block install and that sort of thing, and probably let it ease on up. So I think that from what I've seen, and I've spent a lot of hours there, those guys are good guys. They know what they're doing. They've taken these block apart before and installed them on repairs, but also on new installation where they couldn't get a crane in to handle big lifts of this stuff. But it is manual labor big time though. It's not quick. The other thing that, that's where we're at. You saw the invoice. They've submitted an invoice for, and the way they've done it is there's in their contract, there's a 4-page contract. We looked at the contract. Hans made some changes to it. We covered the insurance part requirements and that sort of thing. But they're roughly half through with the articulating block improvements. That's basically means putting it back together. Minor washout void repairs. There was a specific item on that. They've done that. The upstream side is pretty much complete. So that's generally speaking, that's where they're at.
There been any more discussions about leaving the lake a little bit low to give ourselves some more leeway? Have the engineers commented on that, or where's that thought at?
No. What we'll do is we'll bring it up. What'll happen naturally is we're gonna bring the level up. It's doing that right now, and we'll see if there's an apparent stopping point or not. You know, if we can leave it a little bit lower, then that's probably what we should do. We certainly are going to change the drawdown procedure to where each lake will be looked at on its individual basis. The drawdown procedure that was in effect pretty much was for hurricanes or major storms. It really wasn't for the 1 day, 8 inches of rain. But we'll have to change that a little bit. And Tim and I will work on that. We've got some EAP stuff that needs to be changed a little bit. Should have already been done. And Mike, I'll get you to help me with that if you will. And so what we've had is we've had the Hanson engineers look at this thing regularly. So I feel like the repair we get is going to be an okay repair. That's the St. John Water Management District guy. One of their engineers has been here about 3 times, and he's been okay with what's going on. So if you stand around and listen to people's opinions that come and look at what's been going on when this process has been taking place, there are a lot of ideas. And some of them, this geotechnical engineer, I thought there was a couple of good ones, so I mentioned them to him when he was here, and he said, no, for this reason and that reason, that reason. So I think we've got the right guys looking at it and calling the right shots on advising us from Hanson's standpoint on what to do, but also from Thompson Contracting Group. They're pretty good guys there. So nobody turned in anything on that, but I'll violate policy a little bit and say, are there any quick questions on that or comments? Anybody on the board or? The cost of the repair is $212,000, not counting the $33,000 for Hanson's estimate of what they're advising us and looking over the processes. Now they're not, they figured, I forget, 12 weeks or something like that. So there's not going to be that much, but that's what they put down there.
Alton, have we discussed when are they going to open the South Lake back up to boating?
No, we haven't yet, Mike, and I would rather see us get that articulating block. What you don't want to have happen is you don't want water. We're still covering it up every day, so you don't even really want rainwater going across all that stuff right now. So if we get by the end of the week or first part of next week, if we've got the articulating block back in place and the cement poured that needs to be poured in those different areas, then we should be home free to do that. Meanwhile, we will let it continue to rise you know, as long as we don't get a massive storm that comes along and we say, uh-oh, better open the valve a little bit. But it started on the 22nd of May, so we've already been, you know, 2 major holidays and 2/3 of the summer. So, but that was, depends on how you want to look at it, something you couldn't ignore. I mean, you had to address that, and you had to address it quick. You had to get the right people involved in it. So I think that under the circumstances, it's gone pretty well. Some of the comments early on were you're going to have trouble finding contractors that would do that on a short-term basis, very quickly, mobilize and have the right people, the right equipment, right background, all that. So I think we've done okay with that. Any other questions on it? All right, I'll go into a little bit of Hanson update. Hanson is still doing an incremental analysis. They've had meetings with St. John Water Management District. The big holdup right now is getting some kind of agreement with St. John Water Management District on what the design criteria has to be. And it's either going to be full PMP, probable maximum precipitation, which is 38 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, or it's going to be half PMP, which is about 19 inches, or it's going to be a third PMP, which is 12 inches, 13 inches, something like that. Right now we've got a 100-year flood, which is about 11 inches in a 24-hour period. So that's all got to be sorted out. The only permit that they have on their books that they could issue today is a full PMP. And my goodness, the budget we just talked about will not cover a full PMP at all. So, and they seem to be working with us, but they still want more information. Hanson, let's see if this is it or the other one. Here we go. They're still right now coordinating with St. John Water Management District on the incremental analysis that they're defining the 3 events, the PM, well, they call it PMF, and half PMF and a third PMF. They're review the document results, and then they're going to schedule a meeting with St. John Water Management District in the middle of July. And give them all the memos and all the additional information that they wanted. They've already done this several times. They'll do it again mid-July and schedule a meeting the end of July. And hopefully at that meeting end of July, we'll have some kind of agreement on design criteria, and then we'll be able to move forward. The other thing they did was this flood event. You know, they did emergency inspections immediately following that event. They provided damage evaluation. They coordinated with us and the regulatory agencies, being Clay County Emergency Management Coordinator, St. John River Water Management District, FDEP Dam Safety Office. They contacted the designer, the guy that did the articulating block, supplied that, got him to, went over the drawings with him, went over what pictures we had and things like that, asked him what he thought, and so he was involved in it. He was and they reviewed the original design. And then he actually is a guy that gave them some leads on Thompson Construction Group as a good contractor. And they started the week of the 19th. And so that's pretty much where we're at. I think we're within 2 weeks of having it pretty much buckled up. Okay. So any comments, questions from anybody on the board about Hanson and or Thompson Contracting Group? Okay. Now, grant updates. Janet, I don't know if you've got something there. I've had some conversations with Laura Wittenbauer. She is, I think I told you about it too. She is taking the Hanson October of 2022 engineering estimates, and she's taken the 10 items that we had from the LMS, the county's thing, and she's trying to combine those two. And then she's already had some contact from Mike Ladd, the guy that's the new emergency coordinator for the county. John Ward quit, I guess, or retired or whatever. So that guy has reached out to her and it's been helpful. And so we'll have some information, more information on that shortly. But there's the last two hurricanes that we had. One of them has a deadline of the end of August to submit for possible grant funding for these kind of projects on that. And then the second one hasn't been issued as far as a time frame on it. But she's trying to get stuff together to hit that deadline. So.
That's my second.
Okay. I'm not trying to step over you, but so that sounded good. So, and I guess they kind of go hand in hand, though. If you got to get the design criteria before you can really know what kind of money you're talking about, before you can really get grant consideration.
There's also a water resilient grant that we're talking about and seeing if we can't check all the boxes on that one.
Is Laura involved in that too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I thought she was. All right. Anything else on that? No. Okay. Water quality actions. Mr. Pence, you've got some activity going on today as we speak with Water Hyacinth. You want to update us on that?
We had them in here with the March earlier, and that we're down in
I had it put on my property, everything that was in my slough, and the honest truth, it took maybe 2 weeks for it to sink down and dry out, and the most marvelous thing has happened. Land that never produced much of a yard before, lush. In fact, I can't keep it mowed, it's so lush. So the good news is, if anybody wants to come and take it, all you got to do is mulch it up with your lawnmower. It's wonderful. So, and it won't be there long because it doesn't take long for it to melt down and dry out. It's really amazing stuff.
Okay, just so everybody knows for the record, we put in the number of fish, carp, recommended by state biologists. We didn't pull this number out of thin air, so we didn't put in too many or too few. We put in what they recommended, okay? When we originally discussed this, the biologist told us it takes 9 months to a year to see the results. So, you know, people are gonna say the weeds are so bad and what are the world of fish doing? The fish take time. I'm not a biologist, but the weeds are what clear the water. So the hyacinth and the southern naiad, the coontail, that's clearing the water.
Exactly.
So it's not, we haven't really done anything other than let the water do its thing.
But if you don't, if you don't do anything about the water hyacinth, I wasn't around when it went wall to wall or shore to shore with hydrilla, but water hyacinth will do the same thing. It will totally shut your lake down.
Okay, means we're discussing, I guess this is the time. Why did we do the small finger over on Wesley instead of doing the large finger where all the hyacinths at over by Lake Lark? Why wasn't that one the first finger?
When I talked to him, I said that's where we would start at the dam and work towards the other dam. So I just started there. I didn't have any other reason.
Well, it would have helped, because I know you're going to ask to have more of this done, and it would have helped had we been able to drive across that dam and see all the hyacinth gone. Right now, all that hyacinth's still there, and you're going to tell us, well, this other finger is clear as a bell. No one can see the other finger unless you go there by boat.
But I didn't propose to come in and have a demo day. I wanted 5 to 10 days to do it all at one time.
I remember. I voted against that.
I know.
It was voted against, and I think we're in an evaluation stage. We said this would be a trial, and we would see what we could learn from this.
Right.
And from what I remember,
That's why I picked the smallest.
yeah, but Larry, what I remember was for the $2,700, they were going to clean out the finger by Carol's place, and also they should be able to get the Lake Lark finger. And
That's
they hadn't
correct.
got nowhere near that much.
The only thing they picked up.
So my point is, then we need to evaluate factually how much was done, and you're saying go for 26,000. If they don't do any more than they did today, and we were thinking they were going to do both of those fingers, then they're going to be a lot longer getting that stuff cleaned out. And you still got to deal with.
I'm not arguing that point. If I'd have done the other code, the same results would have been. They only got about 80% out of Carroll's. That's 3 times smaller than the other one.
But they can't come back and give you a price for, if they told you 2,700 would get those 2 fingers, then they're not going to come back, in my opinion, with a price that says 26,000, they'll do everything. No. I don't think so. And the other problem that we've got to learn from this trial, which is the reason we said a trial and everybody went for that, is how do we get rid of this stuff? You know, you had Tim Lee with one truck, and I think you told me today that one truck ain't going to get it. Well, that's additional expense that we got to come up with. Then you got the disposal that, did you say your name was? Tammy England. Tammy England. So you weren't real happy today with the disposal. So, and you know, it could be that everything we did is perfectly legal and all that, but still, you know, if you. Yeah. I understand. So we should, and then you talk about Gayward Henry, so it seems to me like we've got additional results of the trial to evaluate before just giving these guys another, go ahead, here's $26,000.
When we had the state of Florida biologist out regarding our tortoises. And our purpose at the time was to clear some trails through the woods for people to use their golf carts. And also, we had kids partying in there and taking their clothes off in there, and it was time to clear it out so that could stop. She walked through that meadow out there, and she told us at the time how to mow our grass and that we had lots of food out there for the tortoises, which is why we have them out there. We didn't go get them and put them out there, they just came. So I can call them again and ask them if they have any objection to us putting that material there and letting it dry, mulching it up and taking it away, or whatever we're gonna do with it. I don't think they're gonna say anything as long as we don't mow close, because that gets rid of the tortoise's food. So I would be glad to do that, which is what Gayward would have me do anyway.
Hey, I like the idea of putting it behind the fire station, that's what we talked about originally. The problem is like Alton mentioned, that's an extra expense. When, Larry's talking about doing this for 26 grand or whatever, you got to get it from the lake to behind here. So
Yeah.
that's going to be an additional expense on top of the 26,000.
You know, I was gonna bring that up. It was gonna be, Tim Lay did what he did for today for $600-700. And in all honesty, you think that's too much?
No, I did not know that we paid him also.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. If all this guy wants to do is collect the hyacinth, and then we got to get rid of it.
And we can't put, the biggest problem is we can't put it on the dam. If we could put it on the dam, then anybody and everybody who wanted the stuff that already lives here could go and pick up what they want.
We're not gonna put it on the dam, Larry.
I know.
We are not gonna put it on the dam, so don't even go there.
How was it we were able to pay Tim $600? Was it out of the original $2,700?
With what now?
Where did the funds come from to pay Tim $600?
From the board?
Was that
When we canceled the 26,000, we said we need to go do the one-day trial. And the bugaboo, one of the bugaboos in the 26,000 was that it was $26,000. The other was that did not include hauling it anywhere. So we said, then we had this South Lake Dam situation come up, and we said we're not putting anything on any dam. And so that created the issue of, well, okay, Stone Aquatic is not going to haul it for $7,000 or whatever that number was. So
Yeah, 7,000.
so we said if we're going to do the trial, then we've got to have, you can't just go out and fill that little boat up and then do nothing with it. So we said you got to have some way of moving it. But the board did not, if you're saying, did the board actually vote on that and approve that in the scope? Probably not.
My recollection was we voted on the one-time payment to Stone Aquatic. So my question is, was that amount of money that we approved, did that cover the removal and Tim?
No.
So,
It did not cover the hauling it.
So do we have enough information based on what happened here with the one finger to extrapolate hauling costs and where, and how much volume we're talking about? I mean,
Not yet.
I have to apologize, but I don't feel like I have a good
The volume,
handle on
the
this.
volume of material that they took out of there?
Yeah. So how many loads did Tim take? And his trailer's what, probably a 2-yard trailer, if that? Do we?
it was, in weight, they said that, they would be, dumping, Tim said you'd haul 10,000 pounds. And they were putting something like 6 to 8 on his trailer each time. I mean, this is a lot of material. It's
It's
full
wet.
of water.
Yeah, it's wet. Yeah,
A gallon of water weighs 8 pounds
yeah.
until it drains out. Once it drains out, it goes to nothing. I mean,
Yes.
what's in Carol's yard is down to about ankle high. And it was at head high when we put it on the bank. When
And how
she
do-
put it on the bank.
How does it get from this cutting barge to Tim's trailer? The conveyor, they can, so it can back, as long as we have a place to back right up to it, it can be dumped into can it be dumped into a large dump truck? Will their conveyor reach?
Yeah, they could actually do that, but you gotta back the dump truck down into the water.
Well, I mean, so what we're saying is we can't use the boat ramps.
If you got the type of trailer that, Tim has, which, you know, is hooked up to the truck, he backed that down into the water from his own, boat ramp. And they loaded it onto the trailer.
Yeah, but if you're
He
gonna do
pulled it out
this,
and drove it up on the hill. I don't understand what you're asking.
did Tim back his trailer into the water?
Yes,
Okay, and he's okay with that?
yes.
I'm intrigued. Okay, but I don't think you're gonna, if we found a dump truck service, they're not gonna wanna back their trucks into the water. I wouldn't think so.
A dump truck is too big anyway because of the weight of it. This was the best way to haul it.
Right, oh, that's where I'm going.
A trailer and a truck.
So it's gotta be a
You
trailer.
get up trying to put dump trucks on concrete, you know what it does.
Yeah,
It's not the way to get it out. Not even a boat ramp. You don't want to do that.
Larry,
but if we went to Waste Management, for example, and rented a roll-off container and they dropped it off by the boat ramp,
That
be the
would work.
point?
or two of them, or three of them, and we move them in and out, would
That
that
would
work?
work. There's two problems with that. The downtime of how long it takes them to run from where they're getting the material.
Yeah, he's gotta go to the
Right.
marshaling point,
Yeah.
yes.
And we were going from Carroll's Cove up to where, Tim lives. So it was only like 2 coves. They were making a lot of trips. If they had to run all the way back up to the boat ramp, it wouldn't have got about half as much.
Yeah, I
Another
don't mean to put
question-
Well,
words
it
in.
sounds like we gotta get all the ballet on paper and then go back and get a proper quote from this outfit, because I think you're gonna see the price go way up.
And
That's
another
my concern.
another question we need to ponder is, will the Lola boat ramps be able to handle that kind of tonnage? And that's not a question we can answer.
What do you mean in terms of handle?
The Lola boat ramps,
The only two that I know we can use is, Tim and I talked about it today, is Tim's and the boat ramp. So everything halfway in the lake down would go into Tim's, he'd haul it up. Two, and we needed two, another truck and another dumpster. So that when Tim took his load, he could back in and the other truck could get a load. They were doing it every 20 minutes.
but we need to consider if the Lola boat ramps, who I believe also need some repair, if they're going to be, one, okay with us using their boat ramps, and two, if those boat ramps are going to be able to sustain the tonnage coming off of the debris.
The boat ramps will handle.
The Northwood ramp is damaged. It's up for repair. It wouldn't hold it. It's cracked up way too much.
Yeah, but if you could bring a roll-off container, they might be able to set it next to the boat ramp. They don't have to be on the ramp per se, as long as this guy's pontoon setup can reach it from the
Yes.
water.
Yes.
I don't know that they could get something in there
Yeah, I
with
believe
the
the fence
gate,
is in the
with
way.
the gate and the fences, yeah.
The best case scenario would be have homeowners allow you to dump it on their property.
Yeah.
That's the best case scenario. No, if y'all dredged down by my house, y'all spun them, I'd let you throw them in my backyard.
It is, that's what J.M. and that whole group in that slough did. They had them dump it all in their yards. But I don't know that, you know, I'm not gonna ask anybody to do that.
You ask her. No, that's not, technically not your problem.
I can tell you one thing, they dumped 5 loads into 2 backyards that would go from the floor to the top of that TV screen. That's how much came out of there. You guys don't realize how much is in all of these sloughs.
So what you're telling us is gonna be way more than $26,000.
We don't know. Probably.
That's their, here's the deal. He comes in, your lake, a pond, it doesn't matter, one day, $2,700. That was what we paid today for a demo. You stay 5 days, if he works 5 days, it drops to $2,600. It stays at $2,600 every day if you kept him 30 days. It doesn't increase and it doesn't decrease. So that quote that he gave me was how number of days that they're going to be here working.
Yeah.
Well, I know we haven't made a proposal, so I know it's way out of turn here, but to me, it sounds too expensive. And we don't know, you don't know how much it's going to cost, you don't know how many days it's going to take. We don't have an idea how much you got out today, you know, did you get the whole finger? Is that a bad finger? Is that not a bad finger? So it's so open-ended. Like I say, that guy's more than happy to stay here for $2,500 a day, but that's very expensive. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying I don't know that I don't know that I have a clear understanding how this plan is going to work.
I see.
If you don't want to get rid of it, each plant, you already noticed each plant produces another plant every 5 days. That's how fast it grows. Everyone in the little video rascals got them like 5 days, it's another one. And that's why I keep lunching up. You saw how tall it's getting now.
But I see 2 pieces to this effort. The piece A is your 27,000, and that number may or may not move, but that cleans everything out of the lake. But piece B is where do we put it and what's it going to cost to get rid of it? So we got to figure out how to cost that to move, to haul it. Correct. So we need to know what we're going to do for piece B. So
I could ballpark it if Tim charged, let's say $700 off that one plus for 8 hours of haul, and we need 2, that's 14 times 10 days. That comes back to around 10,000. It's the old one for all in all.
yeah.
Well, that's another thing to do. That's another option. Go back to him and tell him he's got to get rid of the crap, you know? That's what he was supposed to do originally, and then he reneged on that. That's what got us off of the $26,000.
And that would be the cleanest anyway. Then we have one throat to choke. We can point directly to him and say, here, it's your baby. And here's the not to exceed dollar value that we agree on.
He should have learned from this too, though. I mean, we said this was a trial. The trial was for us to find out more about what does this thing do, how does it work, and all of that. And then the other thing is he should have learned from what he did today. So he should be able to give us a better idea. And even up to the point of him having a fixed price bid, you know, rather than just $2,700 a day.
I called him today, I wanted to know these figures that I got in February and March.
And obviously, if we would have cleaned both those fingers out at $2,700, then we would feel a lot better. But
he hadn't gone up. And he said, no, the price I give you is that's what it is, $2,700 a day, no matter where I go. More than 5 days, it's dropped.
But Larry, in my opinion, he took out less than half of what we expected him to take out in that.
But wait a minute. What he did was look at the finger that he cleaned out today, back in April. Every day that stuff is left in our lake, it multiplies. And so what he got today wasn't a thing like what he saw when he was here. Because I had little stuff then, now I have stuff that big and twice as much of it.
Yeah, but what you're saying is what Mike's been saying all along here that we haven't been listening to, is it's gonna cost us a whole lot more to get the amount of work done that we were thinking back in April.
But guess what? Sitting and waiting won't help us either, because I took some out already myself, $800 worth, which was nothing compared to today. So if we wait, the whole lake will look like this, and then what will people say?
Do we know, here's another question, another evaluation that I think needs to be made. Do we know what chemical treatment would cost us to do?
Say it again, please.
Chemical,
What did you say?
spray it. Do we know what that would cost?
To spray it?
Yeah.
I think the cost in the spraying to be considered is beyond the spraying. It's if you kill all that stuff and it sinks to the bottom, it's there. It's going to clog it up even worse.
Same way the fish do.
I'm sorry.
Fish are going to drop it on the bottom too. Now, I'm not a proponent for spraying, but if people want immediate results, these companies spray all the time. I'm not saying we should spray or shouldn't spray. I'm just saying we need to consider it as an option.
I don't care about considering it as an option. I just want to understand when we started down this trail that one of the worst things that was talked about was all the stuff that floated to the bottom and clogged up our already clogged up channels.
From a business point of view, back when we got the quote for the one day was, they came out, they said they'll take care of one whole finger and get to another finger and get most of the other finger. They came back, you double checked, he said, yes, the price is still the same. I understand that summer and things are growing, but that's not my problem because that's not my business. He said that this is the job. I have a problem paying somebody by the day when they can say, this is all we can get to the day. Oh no, it grew higher than we thought it would. Now we have an incomplete job and now we got to pay another day. It's still too loose. And this was actually their second stab at our lake because they, private homeowners, paid for them to come out into their finger and a different finger. So they sort of had a working idea of what's going on. And I am okay with considering paying by the job rather than paying by the day. I think the onus is on them to decide what they can accomplish in a day and figure out how many days it would take to complete a job. And I don't think I got the answer to my question about we approved paying Stone Aquatics, but who approved paying Tim to do the haul out today?
I did.
Thank you. That was what I was asking earlier. Okay, that's just my 2 cents on the whole.
And just for clarity on the Stone Aquatics coming out here twice, the private homeowners hired them to come out and actually skim the bottom. So they did it was a totally different process. We just had them come out and skim the top for hyacinth and water lettuce. So it's a little bit two different jobs, but I kind of agree with Diane and Alton. And the guy's been out here today, so he should be able to tell you, okay, I've seen it and it's going to take me a lot more than 10 days. It's going to be more like 2 months, whatever the number is.
Yeah, I think we need to hear a firm price to job, total job. We can't leave it open-ended. And I know we're not going to like that number.
15 days, $39,350.
That's what he gave us today.
But that's still a daily price, right?
It's still $2,600 a day. That's what I said. It doesn't change. The $350 is a permit that they have to buy.
Yeah, see, the way this, if he quotes us a daily rate, then the risk is on us to accept that he works as hard every day as he does on day one as he does on day 21, and that the weather doesn't affect him. You know, there's some problems here.
Well, I won't tell you, I
don't
wasn't
know.
disappointed because I told them right up front when they got here that I didn't want them doing what they did in Case. I didn't want them going to the middle of the slough or the cove and dredging up and then going up to the bank and taking that material out. I wanted to do it high, so picked up, put on the thing and hauled away.
But he needs to look at both at the lake and take the risk of how long is it going to take him and give us a firm price job. I don't.
Well, he also told me that the owner of it, when he put the harvester in there, it'd be about a 15-minute ride down to the dam.
I believe that.
Okay, I was there at 7 o'clock. They got there at between 7:30 and 8. It was 8:30 before they got in the water. It was 9 o'clock before they got down to the dam to do the work. That's 2 hours right there. And then I went home one time, and when I come back, they were messing around out in the mouth of the cove. And I said, that's costing me money. I want the highest, as far back as you can get today. So not that I'm not saying I wasn't disappointed, I was. Because they'd only got about 80%. And as far as when I watched them all but 2 hours when they were here to do the other job with Case. And there's water hyacinth in your all's, or in her cove. Right now, they didn't even come close to getting it out. And they were there from about 8 o'clock. They stayed till dark.
Yeah, 12 hours.
Huh?
They were there about 12 hours.
Yeah. Your cove, it's still hyacinth all over the place.
Well, they're coming back.
Yeah.
From what I'm hearing,
If you
this is
don't-
not a professional company.
They're one of the best. That's the problem.
Well, I'm no hyacinth expert, but that finger down on Lake Clark has the most hyacinth in any of the fingers out in Lake Asbury. And when the wind blows from the west, it blows those islands all over the place. I know a guy who lives if you stand on Lake Clark and look straight across, he lives a few doors down from, he took a trailer load to the dump, took it out. A trailer load, a huge island floated to washed up on his shore. So he pulled it out and he took it to a hunt club. So I think a lot of it's originating in that finger that's where Lake Clark is. That's why I was hoping we'd get that one first. But yes, like icebergs. Yeah.
He had his jet ski, didn't he? That the wreck on it was trying to drag out. Just ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not sure quite what happened, but I noticed over the weekend these greenbergs floating out of my finger, out into the main lake, and I've
It
never
sounds
seen
like they're
that
breaking
before.
off his son.
They're over in our finger now. Two big ones.
Did somebody push them up there, or
No.
does this happen naturally?
We don't know.
Because I've never seen this in 30 years. I've never seen it. But anyway, I think we need to find another vendor and get another opinion here. Is that possible?
Absolutely. I deal with Solitude, a bunch of others. The only thing is, they don't have the machine that this guy's got. What he did is, remember back when I very first started, and I looked up this outfit called WeDo? They designed this machine, $96,000 or $97,000, that does the same thing, goes in, picks the material up, and dumps it. This guy bought 5 or 6 of them. He still has WeDos, but he redesigned this harvester from what he bought. There's no other machine like that out there. They're going to have people come in here with WeDos and do the same thing. But this guy designed it like an escalator. It's about at least as wide as this table, and it goes in and it picks the stuff up and it rolls it back through the machine, and then when it gets loaded up, it just, the excavator puts it out the backside of it. And he's the only one who's got this. He designed it, he built it. We can get a WeDo, you know. I didn't want to even think about spending $97,000, but if we bought our own, we could take from now to Christmas, get it out, and just keep on doing it as long as somebody is willing to run the machine and get it out of here. That'll spray it, but I will try to get other quotes from Solitude. Who all I got on the list nowadays? A couple of them I dropped because we bought the grass cart from Solitude, and after that the I was looking to see if Solitude had a quote on the removal, but I remember they just wanted to spray it. They didn't want to come in, they just wanted to spray it. But I'll find somebody.
I think we're off base, personally. I think that we said this was a trial. So I'm going back to that. We said this was a trial. What have we learned from the trial? That needs to be documented. That needs to be put in a report. Then that report needs to reflect, what do we do from now? What do we do from here? Do we want to continue this direction or not? What does that guy want to do? What did he learn today? You know? And what is he going to charge us? Can he give us a lump sum price or not? All the way through disposal, whatever makes sense there. And the only stipulation I would put in that, it can't go on the dam.
I know what you want.
Yeah. And it's
But the
and it's in the yellow caution light right now.
The first thing I'm gonna do before I do any of that is I'm gonna get a hold of this Mr. Henry and find out if we can put it behind this building or not. Because if we don't have a disposal site for as much material as we're talking about, it's no use to me to waste my time doing anything. People don't want it in their yards, I can tell you that. There's maybe a couple, but for the most part, they don't want that crap dumped in there.
Even in their neighbor's yard, huh?
As long, if we don't, there's an iffy thing to it also. It's the amount of rain that we're getting now. If it doesn't rain for a month, you'll see that in 2 weeks be down to the table, and then another 2 weeks it'll be on the floor. That's how much water is involved in these plants. It just goes to nothing.
All right. Now, Bill had a question on this, or comment.
Yeah, just a couple of them. One, in listening to the discussion, I mean, every day we delay, it's gonna cost more. For 30 days, that means the highest is gonna be 6 times.
That's right.
Which is what we got now. So anybody's gonna give you an estimate today is gonna have to way overestimate, because, yeah, they don't know what the thing's gonna be. So trying to get an exact target is gonna be hard. Number two, I just did a little quick math. You listen to one of the homeowners. They want something done. It's a pain in the ass. I had to shell a lot of this stuff out myself. If you take 445 homes, let's say it costs $36,000, that's $81 is what it's costing each homeowner with taxes. If we did it now with that, I would bet you wouldn't get any complaints from the homeowners association. So,
On top of the 2,400 that we did a year and a half ago, I beg to differ with you on
well,
that.
everyone complains about that all day long, but I'm saying the cost to remove the house, everybody wants to see dredging, you know, then that would affect it. Highest in the pay, nobody wants to see how drilling it. But when you look at the actual cost per home, it's $81. Okay. As a group, you've got a large budget and you've got to justify it. But if you wait until September, October, it's going to be way more than 10 days. My suggestion would be this. If we can afford 10 days, do 10 days and just chemical treat what's left over. You're not going to put as much residual on the bottom, which will take care of probably 80% with the dredging or 70% with the dredging. You're only dropping 30% of the bottom. They're trying to find the perfect solution in China. Like I say, it sounds like a moving target, and nobody's ever going to get you an exact answer. No business is going to give you take all the risk without passing those costs on.
We are, you know, just to make a comment that probably I shouldn't, but we are a board that are not experts in this weed-related business. We are not the experts. And I think that's kind of what Diane was saying a little bit, Mike was saying a little bit, is that we need those experts to tell us, give us their best shot of what they can do. And Tom said, go find another competitor to bid it, all right? If we were running a steel mill, and he's been involved in that, I have too, you're not gonna do it the way we just did this, and take it and say, okay, now we'll just give him a fixed rate per day. No, you wouldn't do that. You'd get fired for doing stuff like that. And stuff like I did too.
Well, I'm in quite a different balance. We know what the cost is for every day of delay.
No, we don't. No, we don't really, Bill, because if you take last summer, the conditions versus this summer, they're not the same. And part of that's because of the cold weather we had, the extremely cold weather we had this year.
Right.
So it's not the
Well,
same.
we know what Hyacinth does, if it doubles every 5 days.
Well, we've heard that. Has that been put in writing anywhere?
Yes, it is.
Where?
In fact, I brought it to you and read it to this group.
Yeah, and
Okay, I mean, I don't get but one piece of mail a day, Carol. So
No, I took it from the biologist, not from me.
I mean, my question is, believe me, but the reality is while we're looking for the perfect answer, the problem's going to
Well, let me tell you, when we got involved in this whole water management study and talking and all that, the debate started, was this a Lola responsibility or is it a Lamster responsibility? And it was determined it was a Lamster responsibility. Guess what? We used to have a water treatment company that handled the management of the water quality in these lakes. And then that was stopped in about 2012, okay? There was a permit for water chemical treatment that expired in 2018. So you had 6 years where nothing happened, all right? Then we say, well, gee whiz, now we got the permit, and Walt was involved in this too. We got the permit. Oh, guess what? Let's try some carp too. Oh yeah, that permit expired in 2015. So we did nothing from 2012 until 2022 on trying to do anything with these lakes as far as management of weeds and all that kind of stuff. But my point was that guy, and his name was Charles Aquatic. He was a biologist that ran a chemical company, but also could buy fish. And that's the two things he did, chemicals and fish. So I don't think we should just discount that.
Charles is out of business, but they did have a management company.
You know what he said in one of his reports? This was interesting too, because his reports were about that thick. I read through every bit of that. You know, we sat here in meetings and nobody mentioned the fact that we used to have that. And then Carl gave me a book at the end of a meeting and said, hey, you might want to look at this. Well, that's exactly what had been being kicked around for 2 or 3 months. All right? And so you read it and you say, golly, this makes a lot of sense. But also, in one of the things that Charles Aquatic guy recommended was all of the people that attended these meetings didn't get along worth a darn, couldn't come up with a plan, and he suggested they have a team building meeting so that people could come to some kind of right decision making. And look at us. We're not all that far away from that right now, it looks to me like.
Bill, here's my 2 cents worth. I agree with some of what you're saying. Me and Walt Guybrush started calling people 2 years ago. So the board process, sunshine law, only meet once a month, it does make it a slow process. I 100% agree. But what the plan is to mechanically extract some. We're going to end up doing that. And then we are going to have to hire a company, whether it's Solitude or Lake Doctors or whoever. And they're going to have to come in and they're going to monitor the lakes. Because like when I rode on y'all's lake a couple weeks ago, and I saw what I think is hydrilla popping up all over the place, which I didn't see last year, That's what that guy who would be a professional, that's what he would do. He'd look at it and say, well, I need to spot treat this, and we'll pay that guy $5,000 a month or where that number is, and he's in charge of the lakes. Yeah, it's gone up.
Yeah.
And, you know, I called the other day, tried to get a quote from a guy, and he never called me back from lake doctors. Because eventually we're going to have to, like, when y'all dredged y'all's finger, or whoever dredged it originally 2 weeks ago, a month ago, whatever, the weeds are coming right back. So just taking them off first time, they're coming back. And, you know,
Yeah,
so we're going to, at some point, we're going to have to hire somebody. And there's going to be some spraying involved.
You know why lake doctors didn't call you back?
Because he owes his money.
They got all their spraying work and money from Stone Aquatic.
Okay.
Stone Aquatic gave them the contracts to go and do the spraying while they're doing the stuff that they were doing today for us.
Yeah, and another little sidebar. I know I'm the only one on this board from the Upper Lake, and we hadn't spent a penny on the Upper Lake. You know, we spent a lot of money on the Lower Lake, this board has this year, but we hadn't spent a nickel on the Upper Lake. Now, I'm on that lake a lot, and it's not nearly as bad. So, you know, at some point, though, we're going to have to put carp in that lake, too.
Yeah.
But right now, it's not as bad, but I hadn't been on it since, you know, we lowered the lake, but I've been out in a kayak.
And
It's
you
not the
only
same.
got Hyson in that longest finger up there.
That is correct. Arthur Moore Duncan, right.
Let me jump in quickly, but I think, you know, to spend a big chunk of money dredging this stuff or cutting it out or whatever the word is, that can't stand alone. It's got to be immediately followed up with a lake management process. Or
100%
we're going to
agree.
just waste money.
I agree 100%.
And we just spent a whole chunk of money keeping the water in the dams.
Right.
So we don't have a whole lot of money. We got to pick our battles, and I'm.
So basically, that's going to be the 30,000-foot view. We do this mechanical extraction, then it's going to have to be followed up with something. Yeah.
Because we're going to, in the next 2 or 3 months, you know, we got to remember our priority should be these dams, and we can't spend all our money. You know, I don't have an answer for this balancing act, but we got to be careful when the engineering people and everybody comes and says, okay, here's our agreement, and we're going to start our design work, and we need $8 million. We got to know what we're going to be doing, and we don't. So
As we get more into this, we may want to do an RFP for an aquatics company, not only to come in and,
Yeah, 'cause we can't-
first shot, but also to continue to maintain the lakes, because we might be able to get it cheaper if it's a continuous contract.
yeah, it's got to be a coordinated, long-term thing here.
I think Larry should be congratulated for getting us to this point. He's put a lot of work into it. We've got some good information. I love your suggestion, because I don't think just hauling it all out is going to ever get it, but hauling it out and then spraying it maybe. But we're at a stage of trying to figure out what's the best way. So I hope Larry will continue with what he's doing. I know he feels a little beat up now, but he shouldn't, because he's done a good job.
I want to second Carol in that. Larry, you have done a good job, and you've provided us with a great deal of research, and we all really do appreciate everything that you brought to the table.
I echo the same thing, Larry. Yeah, we're not trying to stop you. We're trying to help you. Yeah.
All I'm doing is I know you got what I got before. I care about one thing, block the waterfall. The rest of it.
Can you have, between you and Tim Lee, y'all were involved, and can you go back to Stone and have them do a report? What happened? What happened on the trial?
I'm gonna call Stone Aquatic, and first I'm gonna call Solitude, I'll call Ray Coffin, but, and then there's another outfit that quotes,
Florida Ponds, Mark Schwartz.
Yeah, the only thing he wanted to do was charge us to do more water sampling and give us the pipe. We already have that.
The only heartburn, because I remember when he came and talked to the board, my only heartburn, he wanted to do some kind of topographical study of the lake bed. It was going to be $30,000 or something.
I had enough of that stuff from past and the way people did it before us. I want to get something.
Has anybody looked into whether or not the county has a company that's doing this, and maybe we could be an addendum to their contract?
Does the county treat bodies of water?
They have all these retention ponds that they have to be treating. So,
Yeah, I vaguely remember us talking about it one time, and because the county has actually come and dredged y'all's finger, didn't they? Yeah, so the county has the capabilities or the contractors, one or the other, yeah.
so that might be a cost saver for us if we can tack on to their contract.
No, I called
No. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the difference is what we're talking about. They probably come and dredge, keep silt out. Yeah. Yeah.
What I was asking Hans is if we could not violate the sunshine law by establishing a committee to fact find and try to come up with some way of figuring out where we go from here that's got a clear scope and with the data that's available. And I know that you've been kind of, and I'm not disagreeing with Carol or Janet or anybody else, that you've done a great job with not a lot of help. But still, if we formed a committee for fact finding on this process, then maybe we could clarify the scope and figure out, you guys, rather than 20 people sitting here kicking stuff around and everybody has their opinion, y'all could come up with more or less an evaluation of the trial and the scope and get input from these guys that did the trial and think about, list the other people and that sort of thing. Do you want to say something?
So I looked into this before, and so here's really what the law says. It says there's a limited exception to the Sunshine Law for advisory committees established for fact-finding only. A committee is not subject to the Sunshine Law if the committee has only been delegated information gathering or fact-finding authority and only conducts those activities. However, if the advisory committee has a decision-making function in addition to fact-finding, then the Sunshine Laws are applicable. And so that's why these meetings have to be open, because at these meetings you all are making decisions. So if there's an advisory committee that you got to formally establish it and put who's on it at a meeting, and then as long as all they're doing is gathering information and gathering facts to then report back, then that's fine.
I would think we might. Sorry, I know that Larry is obviously the guy that's led this charge, and he probably still should be. I think Mike has done a lot with it. I think Diane is a logical thinker. So I don't know. I don't want to do it. I've got enough to do, personally.
I'd like to go to the video and I'll take the responsibility
Well, that committee needs to figure out what you're gonna do, though, that's what I'm saying, so we don't just sit there and kick stuff around and kick stuff around and kick stuff around. So, I mean, that's fine, if the committee decides that's what you wanna do, could be listed as one of the alternatives to, you know, I mean, what's the name, Stone Aquatic hauling the stuff off themselves could be another fact-finding, figure it out basis, so I would nominate Larry, Mike, Diane, and if you want to be on it, Carol? Okay, well, that's 4, that's half the darn board. We surely don't need, of course, this,
All right, this committee, can we have people that's not on the board on the committee as well, like community members? All right. So I'd suggest, Larry, we get together at some point and talk about the committee, and we'll up it a few more people. So, yeah.
is that all right? So I make that motion for that to be a committee. With Mike and Diane, if you don't want to, say so though. I mean, huh? Okay. Mike, are you okay with it? Larry, you okay with it? Oh, yeah. Carol? Jerry, you okay with them being it? Okay. Okay. You okay with it? Tom?
Yep.
All right.
Do we need a motion on this?
Yeah, I guess we do, don't we? So that you got officially, you formed a committee. And
I'll
so,
second the motion.
all right, so the motion and second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So, okay, so that committee is formed and you guys figure out your own thing to do. Enough discussion on that? Okay, what else we got? The only other thing that I had on the agenda was the drawdown procedure, and Tim Lee and I will work on that because we had one that was almost finished, and we'll modify it a little bit since what happened to the South Lake. And then the EAP needs some update. Mike, if I can get with you and show you that, maybe you can get Kim to help you with it and update it. It should have been updated a year and a half ago. And that's only things that are on this list.
As long as you give me an editable document, I got to have something I can edit. Don't start me from scratch.
No. This is a book right here. And it's got stuff that I had already marked before I gave it to somebody else that was going to do it.
Okay, is there a document that I can work from, or I got to type it all in?
And there's supposed to be, I will research and find the document that was given to
Perfect.
somebody that was going to physically do it, and then somebody else was going to provide what to do.
Is that the redacted one or the non-redacted?
This is not a redacted one, I think. But there's a redacted one too, so. And then Debbie, anything else from the board? All right. Debbie had a comment down here.
Garrett, 254 Wesley Road. I'm the chairman of
Melissa's data and Walden's
And
data.
he admitted they had the stolen property.
Did you, do you got the screenshots of those comments?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, how long ago was this?
Probably 10, at least 10 years ago. It happened at the time that there was some litigation going on.
Tom Aikens.
Yeah, and really was the one that, I guess, took the data, gave it to somebody else who's publishing a lot of it, Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the question that we're looking at. You, Hans, you may have some input, but they're publishing data like, not so much public data, but data's, a lot of names, addresses, reports, letters.
The people who took this are publishing this?
Yeah, they just, what got my attention earlier, they just made it forward to me. They actually listed some foreclosure,
Are you pressing charges?
I don't know, we don't know if we can or not.
I talked to our HOA, the guy that's been guiding us, is, he says there's, and that's his opinion, but that there's nothing we can do to get the data. But again, he's not a litigator, he's not looking at defamation or things like that, because we use a lot of this data to make all this.
Are you talking about Chuck Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Chuck pretty well. I mean, I know he's the Lola attorney.
Yeah, he just got back to me, it was first round,
Yeah.
I asked a couple of questions.
Well, just have him contact me. Doing civil law, I don't know what the statute of limitations are on criminal acts, but I don't know. Maybe it should. I mean, I can talk to Chuck about it, but at the very least, it should be communicated to the Clay County, the local state attorney. I mean, the state attorney's office, and and then they can. All you can do is tell them. I mean, they're the ones that can bring charges. All you can do is tell them, and they're going to do with that information whatever they can do.
Our concern is, I don't know if it's for y'all, but basically, they're public records, but we don't have those public records.
Well, no, it's absolutely. I mean, if the situation is the records of another entity or a government entity like the special district, I mean, going there and taking them is a criminal act of some sort. Like I said, I don't practice criminal law, but I mean, it's a criminal act of some sort. So it should be reported.
I mean, literally just wrote out on Facebook, this is what got me, that one particular person's a realtor here. The board, everybody left the board meeting, she stayed, when it supposedly copied 70 gigs of data. You don't copy 70 gigs of data, that's like.
Wendy Hendricks.
Okay, so that goes back to when all that fight was
Right. There's a lot.
Well, it really depends on how it happened, and maybe this was what Chuck was saying, because, I mean, obviously, the public records are open, so that same person could have made a request, hey, I want to copy your records, and they, by law, they're able to copy the records. But if they came in and took them, meaning now they're no longer in the possession of the district, well, that is not how it works, right? I mean, so it just depends. I mean, they could have made a request. I mean, they could have made a request to copy it, and great. But if you came in and took it, and now we don't even have those documents, that's different. So, yeah, again, it just depends on what happened. Did they actually come in and make? Because if you're saying they came in and made a copy, that assumes that the originals are still here somewhere.
We don't have the originals, we don't have any of them.
We didn't know what it was. We had no idea this
Yeah.
happened until he admitted it. And then you're looking, like I said, 70 gigs,
You
that's
know,
100,000 records.
Bill, I would caution you on something. This is my opinion. I mean, leaps and bounds above what we had been doing.
We gotta figure.
Yeah,
Both lost that.
tell Chuck to contact me, and I mean, if nothing else, this stuff like this can get reported to the, like I said, the state attorney's office, the local, and then they can decide what they want to do with it.